The twin suns of Harmonia cast a golden glow over the gleaming city. Not a piece of trash littered the streets. Not a cloud marred the sky unless it was planned. Not a sound disturbed the peace unless it was approved. Gray stood at the edge of the high tower, his pale blue hands resting on the clear railing. Below him stretched a marvel of planning and control, a city where nothing went wrong. "Admiring your work again?" Azure asked as she joined him. Her robes flowed like water as she moved. "Our work," Gray corrected. 10,000 years of careful planning. 10,000 years of removing disorder. The two Cresians looked out at their world. Their skin reflected the golden light, making them seem to glow from within. Their large eyes, with pupils shaped like stars, took in everything. "The council meeting starts soon," Azure said. "We must discuss the experiment." Gray nodded. The experiment. The humans. Even thinking the word made him uncomfortable. In the great hall, 5 other council members waited. They sat in a perfect circle, as was proper. Nothing in their world was allowed to be unbalanced or uneven. "The order of harmony has guided us to perfection," Elder Blue began, his voice measured and calm. "Our world has no hunger, no war, no crime, no disease. We have mastered our planet, our technology, and ourselves." The others nodded. This was how every council meeting began, with a reminder of what they had achieved. "Yet we continue to observe other worlds," Gray said. "Why? What can imperfect beings teach us?" Elder Blue's star pupils narrowed slightly, the Cresian equivalent of a smile. "Curiosity remains our one permitted imperfection," he said. "Through observation, we confirm our superiority." Images appeared in the center of their circle, a blue and green planet spinning in space. "Earth," Azure said, leaning forward, "the most puzzling world we study." The images changed to show creatures that looked somewhat like Cresians, but with rounded ears, smaller eyes, and skin in various shades of beige, brown, and black. "Humans," Elder Green said with what almost sounded like disgust. "They fight wars. They damage their planet. They argue constantly, yet they advance technologically at a remarkable rate. They've begun deep space exploration," Azure added. "Soon they will discover other civilizations, perhaps even us." The council members shifted uneasily. The thought of chaotic humans discovering their perfect world was troubling. "I propose an experiment," Gray said suddenly. "Instead of waiting to be discovered, we should invite them here." Shocked silence filled the room. "Bring humans to Harmonia?" Elder Red finally gasped. "That would disrupt everything." "A small delegation," Gray clarified. "Controlled and observed. We can learn how they think. And when they see our perfect society, perhaps they will learn from us." The council debated for hours. By Cresian standards, it was a heated argument, though no voice was raised and no face showed emotion. Finally, Elder Blue raised his hand for silence. "The proposal has merit," he admitted. "We will invite a human delegation as an anthropological experiment. We will show them perfection. We will study their reactions, and perhaps we will help them improve their chaotic society." Gray nodded, satisfaction filling him. The vote was taken. The decision was made. A message would be sent to Earth. "They will be amazed by what we have built," Azure said as they left the chamber. "A world without problems. A society without flaws." Gray looked out at the perfect city once more. "Yes," he agreed. What could possibly go wrong? He did not see the small malfunction in the weather control center across the city. He did not notice the young Cresian named Spark watching Earth transmissions in secret, and he certainly did not realize that the message they were about to send would change their perfect world forever. The Order of Harmony had stood for 10,000 years. It would not survive 10 days with humans. 3 months after the Council's decision, the day arrived. The human ship Curiosity appeared in Harmonia's sky exactly on schedule. Its metal hull gleamed in the twin sun's light as it followed the landing path provided by Cresian traffic control. They're actually on time, Azure said with surprise as she stood with Gray and the other council members at the landing area. Perhaps they are more orderly than we thought. The ship settled onto the landing pad with a soft hiss. Perfect silence followed as the Cresians waited. Then, unexpectedly, music blasted from the ship, loud, rhythmic, and completely unplanned. Gray winced, or perhaps not. The ship's door opened, and 4 humans walked out. They moved differently than Cresians, less smoothly, more bouncy. They smiled, showing teeth, which Cresians considered highly impolite. Greetings from Earth. The lead human stepped forward. I'm Ambassador Jack. This is Mira, our engineer, Tom, security, and Anna, our xenobiologist. The humans wore colorful clothes of different styles. Jack's jacket was blue with silver buttons that caught the light. Mira wore something with many pockets full of tools. Tom stood straight in a simple uniform, eyes constantly moving. Anna carried devices that blinked and beeped randomly. Welcome to Harmonia, Elder Blue said with perfect calm. I am Elder Blue. These are my fellow council members. Gray, Azure, green, red, yellow, and purple. Jack grinned wider. You're all named after colors. That's going to make things easy. The Cresians exchanged glances. This was not the formal response they had expected. We have prepared a schedule for your visit, Gray said, offering a thin silver tablet. It details your accommodations, tours, and meetings for the next 14 days. Jack took the tablet and glanced at it. Then he passed it to Mira, who immediately began pressing buttons. This interface is fascinating, she said. But why do you use a binary system when your mathematics is clearly base 8? The Cresians stared. How had she determined their mathematical system so quickly? Your schedule is very thorough, Jack said, filling the awkward silence. But we hope there's room for spontaneity. The best cultural exchanges often happen in unplanned moments. Unplanned. The word seemed to physically pain Elder Red. All activities on Harmonia are planned. All of them. Tom asked, raising an eyebrow. That sounds limiting. Azure stepped forward smoothly. We will show you to your quarters. You must be tired from your journey. As they walked through the perfect city, the humans didn't behave as expected. They didn't walk in straight lines. They stopped randomly to look at buildings. Anna kept bending down to examine plants along the path. Is she collecting samples? Gray whispered to Azure. That wasn't in the schedule. I believe so, Azure replied. And Tom has been counting our security cameras. At their quarters, a perfect white building with identical rooms. Jack thanked their hosts, but then made an unexpected request. Would it be possible to meet some ordinary citizens, not just council members and officials? The question caught Gray off guard. Ordinary citizens, but why? To understand your culture better, Jack explained. Leaders show the ideal, but regular people show the reality. Gray didn't like this at all. All Cresians live the ideal. There is no difference. As the council members left, they heard the humans talking among themselves. Perfect society, huh? Mira said. Yet their power grid is running at 63% efficiency at best. And their security has serious blind spots, Tom added. Plus, did you notice? Anna's voice was excited. There's evidence of genetic manipulation everywhere. These people aren't naturally evolving anymore. Gray and Azure walked faster, pretending not to hear. But a young Cresian maintenance worker named Spark, passing by with cleaning equipment, heard everything and smiled. The experiment had begun. 1 week after the humans arrived, things began to change on Harmonia. Small changes at first, so small that most Cresians didn't notice. But the High Council noticed everything. The weather control system malfunctioned yesterday, Elder Red reported during their emergency meeting. For 17 minutes, it rained in the Central District, rain that was not scheduled. How is this connected to the humans? Elder Green asked. Gray cleared his throat. Engineer Mira toured the weather facility the day before. She asked many questions about the programming. Questions are not sabotage, Azure pointed out. No, but they make people think, Gray replied. The operator admitted he changed a setting after Mira suggested it might be more efficient. Elder Blue's star pupils narrowed to thin lines. This is concerning. More reports followed. Food production in the Eastern District had increased by 7% after Anna suggested a new growing method. The monthly citizens' meeting had lasted 2 hours longer than scheduled because people kept asking questions that sounded remarkably like the ones Jack had been asking. And there's more, Azure said reluctantly. Yesterday, the Security Training Center held a friendly competition between our guards and the human security officer, Tom. Who won? Elder Purple asked. The human. He defeated our top 6 guards in various tests of skill. Azure looked uncomfortable. Now some younger guards are copying his techniques, which don't follow our standard forms. Outside the council chamber, life in the city was changing too. Young Cresians were watching the humans closely. Some had even started walking differently, with the bouncy step of humans instead of the smooth Cresian glide. Spark, the young maintenance worker, had been assigned to clean the humans' quarters. But instead of just cleaning, he found himself talking with them. The humans treated him like an equal, not like someone of lower status. Why do you always wear the same color? Mira asked him one day as she tinkered with a device. Spark looked down at his gray uniform. All maintenance workers wear gray. It is our place. And who decided that was your place? Jack asked, looking up from his reports. Spark had no answer. No one had ever asked him that before. That evening, Spark did something forbidden. He went to his quarters and changed the color setting on his uniform to include a small blue stripe. It was a tiny act of rebellion, but it made his heart beat faster. The next day, 3 other maintenance workers had small blue stripes on their uniforms too. Meanwhile, the official tours continued. The humans were shown the perfect schools where children learned in perfect order. But Anna noticed something strange. Where is the art? She asked the teacher. Where do they create things? Create. The teacher seemed confused. We teach them to maintain what exists, not to create new things. Creation leads to disorder. At the medical center, Jack asked about medical research. Research. The head doctor tilted his head. Our medical knowledge is complete. We eliminated all disease centuries ago. But don't new diseases evolve? Jack pressed. What about the 3 patients we just saw with symptoms you couldn't identify? The doctor had no answer. In the power facility, Mira pointed out design flaws that no one had noticed for centuries. In the security center, Tom demonstrated better ways to protect important areas. Everywhere they went, the humans left behind questions, and questions were dangerous in a perfect world. We need to end this experiment, Elder Red declared at the end of the week. Send them home before they cause more disruption. No, Gray said, surprising himself. I want to see what happens next. What happened next was something no one expected. The weather control system shut down completely. The weather control system failure meant one thing that Harmonia hadn't experienced in centuries: a natural storm. Dark clouds gathered over the city. Rain fell hard. Wind blew signs and decorations off buildings. How long until repairs? Elder Blue demanded. Unknown, the chief engineer answered. The system is not responding to standard protocols. Then use non-standard protocols. Gray snapped, surprising everyone with his emotional outburst. The chief engineer looked confused. There are no non-standard protocols. As the council argued, Spark approached the humans' quarters. His uniform now had a blue stripe and a yellow dot, small changes that felt enormous to him. We need your help, he said to Mira. But not here. You must come with me. The humans exchanged glances. Where? Jack asked. Below, Spark answered. To the real Harmonia. Spark led them to a maintenance entrance and down a long tunnel. The tunnel opened into a massive underground space, filled with pipes, wires, and machines. But that wasn't what surprised the humans. It was the people. Hundreds of Cresians worked there, but they looked different from those above. Their uniforms had colors mixed together. Some had painted designs on their skin. They moved freely, not in the careful, controlled way of the surface dwellers. "Who are they?" Anna whispered. "The discordant," Spark explained. "Those who could not be perfect. Those who asked questions. Those who created new things." An older Cresian approached. Unlike the surface dwellers, his face showed clear emotion, curiosity, and caution. "I am Reed," he said, "leader of the discordant. We maintain the systems that keep the perfect world running." "You're the ones who actually do the work," Tom observed, looking around at the busy underground city. Reed nodded. "For generations, we have lived below, fixing problems, making improvements where allowed. But now the weather system has failed completely." "Can you fix it?" Jack asked. Reed shook his head. "Not without access to the main controls, which are protected. And not without," he hesitated, "creativity. The greatest secret of our perfect society," Spark said bitterly. "It only works because imperfect people keep it running." Mira was already examining a diagram of the weather system. "This design is ancient," she said, "and dangerous. If it stays offline too long, it could affect other systems." "Like what?" Jack asked. "Like the energy grid that powers everything," Reed answered. "The air filtration, the food production, all connected." Tom was looking at another issue. "Your security systems have been monitoring Earth for decades, haven't they? That's how you knew so much about us before we arrived." Reed nodded. "The Council has studied your world for years. They find you fascinating and frightening." Anna had been quiet, examining the discordant themselves. "Your genetic structure is different from those above," she said suddenly. "More diverse, healthier." Reed smiled sadly. "Those above have been engineered for perfection until they barely change or grow. We discordants still adapt and evolve." Jack looked around at the underground community. "Does the Council know about all of you?" "They know something keeps things working," Reed said, "but they choose not to look closely. Perfect people shouldn't need to get their hands dirty." Suddenly, alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed throughout the underground space. "What's happening?" Tom asked, instantly alert. Reed checked a screen, and his face showed open fear. "The energy grid is becoming unstable. Without the weather system to regulate temperature, the main reactors are overheating." "How bad could it get?" Jack asked. Mira looked up from the diagram, her face serious. "If those reactors fail, your perfect world won't just have a rainstorm to worry about. It will have no world at all." The High Council chamber had never been so chaotic. Alarms blared. Screens flashed red warnings. The perfect calm that defined Cresian society was breaking apart. "The energy grid is failing in sectors 7 through 12, a technician reported. His voice shook. An emotional display that would normally be unthinkable. "Evacuate those sectors," Elder Blue ordered. "To where?" Elder Red demanded. "We have no protocols for mass evacuation." Gray and Azure exchanged worried looks. Their perfect world had never needed backup plans. Why plan for failure in a perfect system? The doors burst open. Jack, Mira, Tom, and Anna entered with Spark and Reed behind them. Guards moved to block them, but Gray raised his hand. "Let them speak," he said. "Your energy grid is collapsing," Mira said without preamble. The system was poorly designed from the start, and centuries of avoiding real maintenance has made it worse. Elder Purple stood up angrily. "How dare you? Our systems are perfect." "Then why are they failing?" Tom asked simply. No one had an answer. "This is your fault." Elder Red pointed at the humans. "Everything was fine until you arrived." "No." Reed stepped forward. "Everything was balanced on the edge of failure. The humans just happened to be here when it finally broke. The council members stared at Reed, many seeing a discordant for the first time. Who is this person? Elder Blue demanded. And why is his uniform irregular? He is the leader of the discordant, Gray explained. The people who keep our systems running from below. Impossible, Elder Green said. Our systems are self-maintaining. Spark laughed, a short, bitter sound. Is that what you believe? Nothing maintains itself. We maintain everything, while you sit in your towers and talk about perfection. Adger studied the screens showing the failing grid. How much time do we have? 3 hours before complete failure, Mira answered. Maybe less. We must leave immediately, Elder Red declared. Prepare the emergency ships. And go where? Jack asked. This is your home. You should leave, Elder Blue told the humans. This is no longer your concern. Jack shook his head. That's not how humans work. We don't run from problems. We solve them. There is no solution. Elder Red shouted, losing all composure. Don't you understand? The system cannot be fixed. It can't be fixed your way, Mira corrected. But there are other ways. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then Gray spoke. What do you need? He asked Mira. Access to all controls, materials, workers who know the systems. She looked at Reed. And the freedom to try solutions that aren't in your protocols. Elder Purple gasped. That would violate the Order of Harmony. The Order of Harmony is already broken, Azure said quietly. We must try something new. As the council argued, the ground beneath them trembled. A distant explosion shook the building. Sector 7 is gone, a technician reported. Energy containment field collapsed. That settled it. Gray stood up, his authority clear in his voice. The humans and the discordant have full authority to attempt repairs. All resources are at their disposal. And the evacuation? Elder Red asked. Tom will help coordinate that, Jack offered. He has experience with emergency situations. Anna can help with medical support, Reed added. And we'll need Spark to communicate between surface and underground teams. As they rushed to begin work, Gray caught Jack's arm. I don't understand, the Cretan said. Why help us? We've treated your people with suspicion. We've hidden the truth about our society. Jack smiled. Because that's what humans do. We see problems, and we fix them. We face chaos and find a way through. It's our greatest strength. And our greatest weakness, Gray realized, was believing that perfection meant never having to change. Another explosion rocked the building. They were running out of time. The command center was a scene unlike anything Harmonia had ever witnessed. Cretans from above worked alongside discordants from below. Maps and diagrams covered every surface. People shouted ideas across the room. In the middle of it all stood Mira, directing the chaos with confident energy. We need to disconnect sectors 8 through 10 completely, she told a team of engineers. The power drain is too much. But that's never been done. A Cretan technician objected. Then today is a day for firsts, Mira replied, not looking up from her diagrams. Across the city, Tom led evacuation teams. He had broken all evacuation protocols. Instead of moving people in orderly lines by social rank, he mixed everyone together, moving the young and old first, regardless of status. This isn't how we do things, a Cretan security officer complained. Do you want to do things your way and lose people, or do things my way and save them? Tom asked bluntly. The officer hesitated, then began directing people according to Tom's plan. In the medical center, Anna worked with Cretan doctors, treating injuries from the first explosion. She had made another discovery. Your medical treatments are designed only for perfect Cretan bodies, she told the head doctor. But many of your people have natural genetic variations. That's why some treatments fail. Variations? Impossible, the doctor insisted. Anna pointed to her screen. Look at the data yourself. Genetic diversity is natural and healthy. It helps species survive changes and challenges. While the doctors absorbed this shocking information, Jack met with Gray, Azure, and Reed in what remained of the council chamber. "The old system is dying," Reed said. "We need to establish a new leadership structure to handle a crisis." "A temporary emergency council," Jack suggested, "with members from both above and below." Gray nodded slowly. "The old divisions no longer make sense. We need all minds working together now." Azure looked out the window at the smoke rising from Sector 7. "How did we not see the flaws in our system? How did we convince ourselves everything was perfect?" "People see what they want to see," Jack said gently. "It happens on Earth too." Back at the Energy Control Center, Mira had assembled a strange device using parts from the human ship and Cresian technology. "This power converter should stabilize the grid long enough for us to implement permanent fixes," she explained to the engineers. "But it doesn't follow any approved design," a senior engineer protested. Spark, working alongside Mira, laughed. "That's the point. New problems need new solutions." Mira activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the warning lights began to change from red to yellow. "It's working," Spark shouted. The news spread quickly. Tom reported that all citizens were now in safe zones. Anna's medical teams had stabilized all the injured. The emergency council had established new communication systems that connected everyone, not just the elite. As the immediate danger passed, Gray found Jack watching a group of young Cresians and Discordants working together on repair drones. "I've been thinking about what you said earlier," Gray told him, "about humans seeing problems and fixing them." Jack nodded. "It's what kept us alive as a species. We're not naturally strong or fast. We don't have perfect societies. But we adapt. We innovate. We built our society to avoid problems," Gray said, "to achieve perfection by eliminating change and chance. And in doing so, lost the ability to handle the unexpected," Jack finished. As they watched, one of the repair drones malfunctioned. Instead of giving up, the young Cresians immediately began taking it apart, looking for new solutions. "They're acting like humans," Gray observed with wonder. Jack smiled. "No, they're acting like people who have discovered that imperfection isn't something to fear. It's something to learn from." The sky above was clearing as the weather system gradually came back online. For the first time in centuries, Harmonians looked up and saw natural clouds forming patterns that no one had designed or planned. And they found them beautiful. 6 months after the Great Crisis, the human ship Curiosity prepared to leave Harmonia. The world they were leaving was very different from the one they had found. Jack stood at the viewing platform with Gray and Azure, looking out at the city. New buildings had risen to replace those lost in Sector 7. But unlike the identical structures of the old Harmonia, these buildings had different shapes and colors. "I almost don't recognize it," Azure said. "So much change in such a short time." Music drifted up from a nearby park where Cresians gathered. Some wore the traditional single-color robes, but many, especially the younger ones, had added patterns and mixed colors to their clothing. "The new council meets today to vote on the education reforms," Gray told Jack. "Reed believes they will pass easily." Jack nodded. The new council, with members from both the surface and underground communities, had been working to reshape Cresian society. The old High Council members had adjusted with varying degrees of success. Elder Red had retired completely. Elder Bloom now led a historical preservation committee. "Anna tells me the genetic diversity program is showing good results," Azure said. "The first new children born without genetic engineering are healthy and strong." In the distance, they could see the massive new energy facility that Mira had designed. It incorporated both Cresian and human technology, with multiple backup systems and adaptive controls that could handle unexpected problems. "Tom's security training program has completely changed how we think about protection," Gray added. "We now prepare for things we hope will never happen." "That's the human way," Jack said with a smile. "Hope for the best, Prepare for the worst. A young Cretan approached them, wearing a uniform with colorful stripes on the sleeves. It was Spark, now a junior member of the new council. "The farewell ceremony is ready," he announced. "Everyone is waiting." In the Grand Plaza, hundreds of Cretans gathered to say goodbye to the humans. The old divisions between surface dwellers and discordants were fading, though still visible in how they grouped together. Mira stood with a team of engineers, exchanging last-minute information. Anna was surrounded by medical students, handing out data tablets. Tom was giving final instructions to the security teams he had trained. Elder Blue stepped forward to address the crowd. "For 10,000 years, we sought perfection through order and control. We believed our society was flawless until our human friends arrived." He smiled, an expression that would have been shocking 6 months ago. "They showed us that true perfection isn't found in avoiding problems, but in learning how to solve them." Jack stepped up to speak next. "Humans have never been perfect. Our history is full of mistakes and struggles. But each time we fall, we learn something new about getting back up. That's the gift we hoped to share with you. Not perfection, but growth." After the speeches, Gray walked Jack back to the ship where the other humans waited. "There's one more thing," Gray said. "The new council has approved our first ambassador to Earth." He gestured to where Spark stood with a travel bag. "If you'll have him." Jack grinned. "We'd be honored." As the humans prepared to board with their new Cretan companion, Azure approached Jack one last time. "I've been studying Earth history," she said. "You humans have faced so many disasters, wars, and challenges. How do you keep going without losing hope?" Jack thought for a moment. "Because we know that every ending is also a beginning, and beginnings are full of possibilities." The ship's doors closed. As Curiosity lifted off from Harmonia, Gray stood watching with Azure. "They called it a perfect world," Gray said quietly, "until humans showed up." Azure nodded, watching the ship disappear into the sky. "And now we know what perfection truly means." Around them, the imperfect, ever-changing, wonderfully alive world of Harmonia continued to grow.